Picture this. You're an elite Roman legionary, right? A hardened veteran who has survived years of grueling campaigns, brutal hand-to-hand combat, the whole shebang. But right now, you're trapped in a hostile, sweltering foreign city, fighting for your life day in and day out. You're exhausted, you're parched under that brutal Egyptian sun. So you reach for your water ration and take a desperate gulp. But instead of life-saving hydration, you start choking. The water tastes of salt. It is literally undrinkable. This isn't some made-up Hollywood movie scene. In this explainer, we're diving into a real, terrifying historical event where, during a desperate siege, Caesar's legions found their lifeblood turned into a weapon. Egyptian engineers actually pumped seawater into the city's subterranean watercourses, and within hours, a veteran army was on the brink of total panic. That is, until Caesar bet his survival on the geological secrets hidden just 20 feet beneath the sand.
So what actually happens when a city's lifeblood becomes a weapon? We're going to look at Julius Caesar's campaign in Egypt today, but not just as your standard military conflict. Think of this more like a high-stakes, ticking clock thriller. Caesar's survival, and honestly the fate of his entire army, suddenly hinged completely on solving an unprecedented engineering mystery. I mean, within a matter of hours, his legions went from fighting a tough but normal urban siege to facing a really agonizing death by dehydration.
Section 1. Trapped in Alexandria. A force drastically outnumbered.
To really understand how we get to this poisoned water situation, we kind of have to look at the grand strategic scene first. Caesar is currently barricaded inside the royal quarters of Alexandria, and he is definitely not alone. He's locked in there with the young boy pharaoh Ptolemy XIII, along with Cleopatra and a few other key royal figures. But outside those walls, the situation is just descending into absolute chaos. He's entirely surrounded by hostile forces who want absolutely nothing more than to see him dead. And to put the sheer desperation of his situation into perspective, just look at this number, 4,000. That is the total number of men he brought with him from Greece to hold these quarters. Against what, you ask? Against an enemy army of 20,000 experienced veterans, plus another 2,000 cavalry. Oh, and on top of that, those enemy numbers were swelling even further by the hour because rioting Alexandrian citizens and slaves had taken up arms to form this massive, furious militia. So yeah, Caesar is drastically, terrifyingly outnumbered.
Let's trace how this all rapidly fell apart. In October of 48 BC, Caesar arrives in Alexandria on what was supposed to be, frankly, a pretty simple political mission. He's just there as an arbitrator to see that a royal will is fulfilled and to collect a massive financial debt owed to Rome. No big deal, right? Well, by November, diplomacy has completely failed. Emissaries are getting killed in the streets. Caesar is actually forced to seize the royal quarters just to protect himself. And by December, what started as a glorified debt collection has totally devolved into a deadly full-scale urban siege. He is completely penned in, constantly fending off assaults in these narrow, chaotic city streets.
Section 2. A city built on water. The subterranean advantage.
Now, Alexandria wasn't just your run-of-the-mill ancient city. It was a literal marvel of civil engineering, totally driven by these subterranean watercourses. See, the true power of Alexandria wasn't actually in its massive defensive walls or its world-famous harbors. It was hidden entirely beneath the streets. We're talking about a highly sophisticated network of underground channels designed by ingenious engineers to seamlessly distribute fresh water throughout the entire sprawling urban landscape. This hidden infrastructure perfectly sustained the massive population living above it. It was the absolute lifeblood of Alexandria, just flowing quietly in the dark beneath everyone's feet.
Which brings us to Section 3, the salty sabotage, Ganymedes' brilliant trap.
Right in the middle of this grueling siege, a rift forms in the enemy leadership, and this remarkably cunning Egyptian general named Ganymedes takes command. He looks at the stalemate and has this total light bulb moment. He realizes, wait a second, I don't need to throw men at Roman walls to break them. I can just weaponize the city's highly advanced water infrastructure and destroy the Romans from the inside out. The mechanical ruthlessness of his strategy here is just incredible. Step 1. His engineers secretly block off the specific channels that flowed directly into the Roman sector. Step 2. They intentionally pollute those blocked sections by pumping in seawater from the harbor. And Step 3. The Roman water supply is instantly rendered completely undrinkable. Without even lifting a single sword, Ganymedes had basically just planted a ticking time bomb right inside the Roman camp.
And the psychological impact of this? It was immediate and absolutely devastating. Just listen to this quote from the historical sources. Some of Caesar's men started to panic, saying they should have retreated much earlier. Keep in mind, these are not raw, untested recruits saying this. These are elite Roman veterans who have literally marched all over the known world. And suddenly, they're pushed to the absolute brink of despair. They're trapped behind barricades, they're vastly outnumbered, and now they're staring down the barrel of a grueling, agonizing death by dehydration. The morale of arguably the greatest army in the world is just collapsing in real time.
Section 4, Caesar's desperate dig. The forensic response.
So, in this exact moment of total chaos, Caesar's panicked men are begging to evacuate to the ships. They just want out. But Caesar coldly calculates the reality of their surroundings. He knows a retreat means abandoning their fortifications, which would inevitably lead to a total slaughter in the open streets long before they could successfully evacuate. Instead, look at the stark contrast in how these two commanders operated. Ganymedes' Alexandrian strategy was highly sophisticated, right? He weaponized the advanced civic engineering of the city itself. But Caesar's Roman strategy? It relies on this brute force, forensic survival instinct. He basically says, forget the poisoned aqueducts, we're going to completely bypass the infrastructure and tap straight into the raw, unshaped geological aquifers deep beneath the ground.
Trapped behind his barricades, Caesar strictly forbade the evacuation, which absolutely avoided a disastrous massacre. Instead, he ordered his exhausted soldiers to grab shovels and start digging wells. And they dug relentlessly, day and night, straight down through the earth and sand beneath them. It was this highly stressful, time-sensitive forensic solution. He was essentially betting the survival of his entire army on a single geological assumption, that natural, unpolluted fresh water was sitting just 20 feet below their boots.
Part 5. Turning the Tide. Engineering Survival.
And you know what? The massive gamble actually paid off. They struck fresh water. They instantly averted the crisis using shovels rather than swords. I mean, just imagine the immense, overwhelming relief that must have washed over that Roman camp as clear, drinkable water finally bubbled up from the dirt. The invisible geography beneath our feet truly dictates survival. And why does an explainer about a 2,000-year-old siege matter for us today? Because this whole event perfectly highlights how deeply we still rely on the hidden systems that sustain us. When the sophisticated man-made infrastructure failed them, when it was actually turned into a weapon of hydraulic warfare, it was an understanding of basic science and underlying natural geography that solved the seemingly impossible military crisis.
So I want to leave you with this provocative question to chew on. As we continue to build increasingly complex smart cities and hyper-advanced infrastructure, how does the invisible geography beneath our feet still dictate the outcomes of modern conflicts? Because just like in ancient Alexandria, vital natural resources and the hidden networks that deliver them remain the ultimate chessboard. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and always keep questioning the world beneath your feet.